Welcome once again around the world to the hour of the time. I'm your host, William Cooper. Folks, tonight we've got a dynamite show for you. We have a scoop on the entire world that we're going to give you tonight involving South Africa. And you don't want to miss this because it bodes good news for those of us who don't believe in communism. And let's hope that it works out. In any case, I want you to have your pad, paper and pencil ready there with you so that you'll be able to write down and take notes all during the program. We're going to talk about many different things. Let me check and see if this is Craig Smith on the line here. Craig, is that you? Oh, it's a little bitty fellow playing with something he found in his pants. It's so small he has to use a huge magnifying glass to find it. We're going to send somebody over to change your diapers right now. We've got your number readout here on the caller ID system. So stand by, little fellow. We'll have help there for you. Of course, you need it very, very badly. Steve in Muncie, Indiana, hang up the phone before we have to deal with you a little more harshly than we have in the past. Poor Steve. Folks, in case you wonder what's going on, Steve has a habit of calling radio programs and pulling out his childhood, pulling down his pants and showing the world what a little baby he is. He lives in Muncie, Indiana, and he's messing with the wrong radio talk show. He's probably standing there scratching his head, wondering just how it is that I know who he is. But as I told you many, many times before, ladies and gentlemen, I formed, administer, operate, whatever you want to call it, the largest and most successful civilian intelligence gathering operation in the world. So, there's not too much that we can't find out if we really want to. This is the age of information media. It's easy, Steve. We not only know who you are, we know your address and your phone number. And if you continue, someone, probably Linda Thompson, will show up on your door with a subpoena, my friend. Someday I'll tell you the story about how Steve became so disillusioned with life that he has to indulge in this kind of petty, childish behavior. But now, for the great news. South Africa now has an other side coalition. That's right, folks. The African National Congress is finding itself up against a very, very powerful new coalition that it's never had to face before. The African National Congress is a communist organization bent on destroying the nation of South Africa, and I mean destroying. But the African National Congress is very powerful. They're backed by socialists all around the world. You see what happens when Nelson Mandela visits the United States of America. It may interest you to know that the United States State Department paid to train Nelson Mandela's terrorist bodyguard force, and they are terrorists, probably responsible for hundreds of deaths in South Africa, trained them without even consulting the responsible, in place, established government of South Africa. So the people in South Africa who want to escape communism are up against a terrible foe. Terrible foe. But now they have formed a strong opposition coalition to the communists known as the African National Congress, headed by Nelson Mandela and his squad of goons. And folks, no one else in the world has heard it yet because it's not going to be announced until Tuesday or Wednesday. And we're going to scoop the world again on Monday night. We are going to have one of the leaders of this new coalition as a guest on the hour of the time, if I'm able to put it together over the weekend. This is a historic mass murder. Mass murder is correct, because what's going to happen, and I don't mean murder literally, but the communist faction in South Africa is going to find itself totally without support here very quickly. In actuality, it is a historic mass merger of over 20 separate South African political parties, governments, and interest groups into a unified coalition in an effort to thwart the possibility of losing control of their country to the African National Congress South African Communist Party alliance. No one ever dreamed that this could happen. Kaji, on the scene always, all over the world, has this story before any other news media in the world. You are hearing it here first, and you will not hear it on the established media until Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. When the formation of Freedom Alliance was announced on Radio Pretoria in South Africa, one exuberant coalition member proclaimed Freedom Alliance as the new voice and face of freedom for a culturally diverse South Africa. Now, Freedom Alliance stands firmly on the platform, folks, of protecting cultural sovereignty, self-determination, and freedom. And that's what this program is all about. Freedom Alliance leaders asserted that their grassroots coalition embodies every people group of South Africa, making it the new multiracial majority of South Africa. The new Freedom Alliance leaders are Dr. Mangosuthu Buthelezi, Chief Minister of KwaZulu, the 8 million Zulu nation. He is also a prince of the Zulu nation. Lucas Mangopi, President of the 3 million Bapu Botswana nation. You got to bear with me here because I'm not too good on the pronunciation of some of these words. Brigadier General Joshua Gazo, Head of State, 2 million strong, Ciskei Nation. Mostly Xhosa, the tribe from which Nelson Mandela belongs, are now allied against Nelson Mandela. Dr. Ferdy Hartzenberg, Chairman of the South African Conservative Party, and General Constant Viljoen, the legendary retired highest-ranking general in the South African military, who is the current chairman of the Afrikaner Volksfront, is looked to as leader by over 2 million whites. Clearly, folks, clearly, the new Freedom Alliance is the new multiracial majority of South Africa, and it bids, if they're successful, it bids goodbye to Nelson Mandela and his communist gang of thugs and murderers known as the African National Congress. In a historic measure of solidarity, all Freedom Alliance members swiftly and unanimously agreed to immediately terminate all bilateral negotiations with the South African government and the African National Congress, and in a written statement declared, quote, "We reject the statements voiced by Mr. Mandela in Lisbon, Portugal this week, in which he dismissed the prospects of a federal option in South Africa, and we reject any developments which will limit the ability of the Constituent Assembly to rewrite a negotiated constitution. The Freedom Alliance rallies behind the principle that member states of a new South Africa should be primarily responsible to provide government for the people by the people." One member of the Freedom Alliance stated, "The African National Congress, South African Communist Party Alliance, is an isolated group of left-wing extremists that are trying to force-feed the very form of government that has failed worldwide onto the people of South Africa, communism. The nation is home to diverse, culturally rich people who hunger for cultural sovereignty and trust that Freedom Alliance will protect their heritage. They also know that the ANC Alliance wants to blend everyone into the faceless saucepan of stinking, rotten, putrid socialism." And I added a few words in that last sentence, folks. One of the triggers for the unlikely eclectic amalgamation of seemingly irreconcilable autonomous groups was the passage of the Transitional Executive Council, or TEC, bill by the South African Parliament, which, folks, empowered a transitional governing team. Brigadier General Gazo, head of state of the 2 million person nation of Ciskei, described the TEC bill as, quote, "transitional trickery and an outright seizure of power by an unelected, unconstitutional body dominated by communists," unquote. And he goes on to say, quote, "We refuse to blend our rich and diverse cultures into a cauldron of communism," vowed General Grunwald, spokesman for the Afrikaners Volksfront, or the People's Front, unquote. Ladies and gentlemen, this is great news for all of us who know who Nelson Mandela really is and what he really stands for. He would have destroyed the nation. He would have destroyed the cultural heritage of all the different racial groups and tribes in South Africa, and that would have been the wrong thing to do. This program and me personally are against racism in any form. We are also against the destruction of peoples and nations by communism and socialism. And it looks to me like the different diversified tribes and racial makeup of South Africa agrees with William Cooper and the hour of the time. For they have put aside all of their traditional differences to form this coalition in order to protect their diverse racial identities and their cultural heritages. You see, I believe, folks, that if everybody quits mucking around with everybody else and just leaves us all alone, people tend to find a level of happiness. People always gravitate toward improving their lot, improving the lot of those around them. When you get people who have hidden agendas, people who want revolution, no matter whether it's called for or not, people who want to foist communism and socialism upon those who do not want it, then you have the old formula, the recipe for hatred and murder and labor camps and sickness, plague, death, poverty. Now, I am not in any way defending apartheid, and if any of you out there read that into what I'm saying tonight, you are making a big mistake. I am against apartheid. I am glad to see it go. And what is coming with this new alliance is not apartheid, ladies and gentlemen. It is something closer to what we here in the United States enjoy now. And as we continually improve our lot for all peoples here, they will learn to do that there also, if they are left to do it, solve their problems in their country the way that only they can do. I am very disappointed, and in fact, I'm sick of hearing people talk about how our valiant, great Marines are being cut down in Somalia in unprovoked, unwarranted attacks. Are you all suffering from total insanity? How would you like it if Somalia sent their army, their Marines, if they have any, whatever they have, how would you like it if they sent them to this country to force feed us without being invited, and then began breaking down our doors and looking for our patriot leaders, calling them warlords? Do you think that if we repelled their efforts, that those attacks would be unwarranted? We were not invited by the Somalis to go to Somalia. They didn't want us there in the beginning, and they don't want us there now. And when our Marines are fired upon, it is provoked, and it is warranted. Our very presence provokes it. And now that you see dead Marines and dead Army soldiers being dragged through the streets, you're screaming to bring our people home. What did you think was going to happen when we sent them over there, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think they were going to a Sunday school picnic? That's what happens when you send men with guns to foreign countries, especially when they weren't asked. And under the weight of the mass of popular opinion that is screaming to bring our troops home from Somalia, what does our great socialist president do? Why, he doubles the number of Americans in Somalia. When are you going to wake up? When? I would really like to know that. Are you capable of waking up? Can it ever happen? Have I lost my mind to even dream of a day when people will begin to use their intelligence instead of dance when someone pulls the string? Am I the one who's lost it? Am I unreasonable in expecting that people who have the same brain that I have could understand what's happening to them as I do? Not because my way is necessarily always right, but something happens here that doesn't happen out there with most Americans. I can think. I can think on my own. I can look and see events happening and put two and two together and come up with a conclusion instead of waiting for somebody to tell me what is happening. Instead of waiting for the 6 o'clock news to be force-fed the establishment version, which in most cases is a lie. I'm going to read to you the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto, written in 1848 by Karl Marx. Number 1, the abolition of property in land and application of all rents of land to public purposes. Number 2, a heavy, progressive, or graduated income tax. Number 3, abolition of all right of inheritance. Number 4, confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. Number 5, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. Number 6, centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. Number 7, extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing into cultivation of wastelands, and the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with a common plan. Number 8, equal liability of all to labor, establishment of industrial crimes, especially for agriculture. Number 9, combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of population over the country. Number 10, free education for all children in public schools, abolition of children's factory labor in its present form, combination of education with industrial production, and some of those, granted, were needed in his day, especially that portion governing children. But what have our federal and state governments forced upon us? Folks, are we living under the Communist Manifesto today? Is that where we want to be? Am I right in thinking that Americans traditionally have held that America should be independent, that individuals should be independent, and that the rights of the individual should be protected, and that is what protects the welfare of the group? Under communism, it's the other way around. Under socialism, it's the other way around. For instance, now we have state property taxes. Folks, if you think you own your land, don't pay your property tax, and you will see who owns it, for it is in reality the rent payment to the true owner, and that's why you have a warranty deed instead of a patent allodial deed. You don't even know the difference, do you? Well, a warranty deed warrants or guarantees that a deed exists, but it also tells you that you don't have it. You see, if you had a patent allodial title to your land, you would not be required to pay property taxes, because then you would own your land. We have federal and state income taxes, ladies and gentlemen, which was outlined by Karl Marx as a method of eliminating the bourgeoisie. And if you don't know the meaning of that term, it's bandied about by socialists and communists all around the world. It means the middle class. You. And if you have a copy of the Constitution, which most Americans have never read in their life, unless it was in school as a child, and then they had Susie or John across the room on their minds and didn't pay attention to what they were reading and haven't read it since, I guarantee you. Most listeners to this show, however, do have a copy of the Constitution and have read it. And those who have learned that a progressive or graduated income tax is unconstitutional. It is a direct tax upon the individual and is expressly forbidden by the Constitution of the United States of America. Federal and state inheritance taxes and reformed probate laws ensure that if you die and if you haven't taken abnormal steps to protect your estate, it will be eaten up in probate and by state inheritance taxes and by reformed probate laws. And there will be nothing to pass on. Number 4, the Sedition Act of 1798, IRS powers, Executive Order 11490, Section 1205, giving total power over all private lands to the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Executive Order 11490, giving total power over all personal property to the General Services Administration. See Section 2002. And then we have the Federal Reserve System, which most of you couldn't even take a few days off to go and try to get rid of. The Federal Reserve Act of 1913 unlawfully delegated the power to regulate the value of our money to the Federal Reserve, which is a private corporation. See the U.S. Constitution, folks, Article 1, Section 8, Paragraph 5. Only Congress can have this power. They have debased our coinage and counterfeited our money. FCC regulations and Executive Order 10995 provides for the takeover of all communication medias. State driver's licenses provide for state regulation of the privilege to travel. Department of Transportation regulations and Executive Order 10999 provide for the takeover of all modes of transportation. Most of you don't even know that. The federal government has total production and labor control under Executive Order 11490 through the Departments of Labor, Commerce, Agriculture, and Interior. Department of Interior controls Bureau of Land Management, Bureau of Reclamation, Fish and Wildlife Services, etc. The Federal Emergency Public Works Programs, Executive Order 11,000, provides for forced mobilization of civilians into work brigades. Can't happen in America? Can't happen in America, you say? I say, you've been living in fantasy land, folks. Fantasy land. Using the Reorganization Act of 1949, Executive Order 11647, Public Law 89-136, and Executive Order 11731, we will no longer have 50 states with cities and towns, but instead have 10 regions and their respective capitals. And it's already being taught to children and recently appeared on the back of Kix boxes of cereals, which I have in my possession. You don't even know what's being taught to your kids. Most of you haven't ever been to your child's school except to drop them off. You've never read the textbooks that are used to teach your children. You don't look at what they're watching Saturday morning on the cartoons or any other time on the Cartoon Channel or Disneyland or Sesame Street, where recently a character named H. Ross Parrott was calling conventions. And the biggest convention he wanted to call was teaching the children that they needed to call a constitutional convention. So that if they don't succeed during our generation, our children will grow up already with it implanted in their brains to call a constitutional convention and destroy this country. Free state public schools, child abuse laws, child labor laws where children work with state approval, abolition of private apprenticeships and the creation of state-controlled apprenticeships, taking children away from their parents on allegations unproven made by anyone. It's happening all over the country. All over this country. There's a bill in Congress right now which will mandate that your children be followed all through their life on a vaccination program. And that if you don't have them vaccinated, you will be tried for child abuse. When will you wake up? When will you wake up? How much do we have to lose before you will wake up? What has to happen to motivate you to move? Why weren't you in Washington, D.C. on September the 29th? If you really care. You see, I'm beginning to find out that not too many Americans care at all except how much money they've got in their bank account. And that's why you have so many patriots involved in these scams like Cosmos and Treasury Gate and this other one that's running around promising that if you give them $300, you're going to get back millions. Because Alan Greenspan's dead. And they sent the Delta forces to get the gold and bring it back into the country. And the Federal Reserve is in receivership. And we're going back on the gold standard bullshit. You people need to be locked up, and I mean right now. You need a straitjacket. You need somebody to babysit you. And as much as I hate the notion, it seems like right this moment it's me. Why? Why? Why do you continue to fall for these scams where you think that you're going to get rich tomorrow by plunking down $300 so somebody can find a form that you could file for nothing in the court yourself? You see? You know what the scam of all this is? You can do it yourself for nothing. Why are you paying $300? Oh, yeah, and somebody from Indonesia came over here and just picked somebody right off the streets that they didn't even know and gave them billions of dollars in certificates backed by gold. P.T. Barnum said it best, folks. P.T. Barnum said it best. There's a sucker born every minute. My job is to get their money. And you wonder why this country's in a mess? There's some very smart men in this world who are taking the world piece by piece, and they're going to rule it. I guarantee you. Because what they believe about most people turns out to be true. Most people don't use their intelligence. They are no better than animals who don't have intelligence. And because of that, they are beasts of burden and stakes on the table by their own choice and consent. And you cannot blame anyone for taking advantage of that, because you take advantage of people and animals in situations like that in your own daily lives. And until you mature and grow up, you, personally, all of you out there listening to me, you're not going to save anything. You're not going to turn anything around. You're not going to abolish the Federal Reserve, and you're not going to get your country back. You're going to be slaves in the New World Order, and that is that, unless you learn exactly what I mean with the subject of this broadcast tonight. The people in South Africa are learning it. Our society is sick. Sick. I was talking to a CAGI member who works for a television station on the telephone today, and she was very sad. She said, "Bill, the people don't care. We're really trying to change things around here at this television station. When we run a story, we just know this story is going to get people up out of their chairs, and they're going to demand change for the better. We run the story, Bill, and we don't even get any calls. Nobody cares. Nothing happens. Nobody gets riled up." That's the situation, isn't it? You know, I was listening to Tom Valentine before my show started. And I'm sorry, Nick, but I'm going to do this because everybody in this country needs to learn a lesson, and I'm going to use you as an example. Nick has been a guest on Tom Valentine's show several times, and he's called me and talked to me many, many times. And Nick called Tom Valentine tonight and said, "What can we do? What can we do? What can we do?" And I'm going to tell you, folks, Nick was not in Washington, D.C. on December the 29th. And there was no excuse for it. And yet he's playing the game, asking what can he do, and that's what most people are playing, and you should not get mad at Nick because you're all guilty, all of you. So don't go down and beat Nick up. I will tell you this about Nick. He's lived under communism. He knows what it's like, and he's sincere when he says that he doesn't want to see it happen to the United States of America. And I'm tired of hearing excuses from people. I'm tired of people telling me they want to change things. They want to take this nation in a better direction. I'm tired of people pointing at the Jews and saying it's the Jews. What's the matter with you silly people? How can it be the Jews? They only make up 3.8% of the total population of 250 million Americans. If it really is the Jews, then they really are smarter than everybody else. And they deserve it. If 3.8% of any total population can take over and control everything, then that makes everybody else look like stupid little children. And if that's really the truth of the matter, then they deserve to rule. But you see, I know something, folks. You all complain about Hollywood? Every corporation, every movie studio in Hollywood is a publicly owned corporation. And when I told you, the listeners of this broadcast, we're going to buy a major movie studio, I was not joking, folks, because I'm going to shame you into it. All you have to do is go down and buy stock until we own more stock than the people who own it now, and then we control that studio, and we can do the same thing with the New York Times or any other major newspaper that is owned by a body of stockholders. Stop running around and whimpering and crying and complaining. Get out your wallet and buy some stock and go to the stockholders' meetings and demand that they show in the movies and on television and print in the papers the truth. And if you're not willing to do that, then you deserve what you get. And whoever does go and do that in this country, which is a capitalist republic, deserves to own it. And if they own it, they deserve, rightfully, to print their viewpoint. All this nonsense about freedom of the press. When are you going to grow up, folks? The only one who has true freedom of the press is the man who owns the press. Or the woman, in the case of Catherine Graham. And whoever owns something has the right to run it the way they want and print what they want. None of you get the message here. This country is about responsibility. It's about action. It's about standing up and doing what is right. Not whimpering and crying and making up excuses why you can't do what is right. This country's not about blaming a race of people because they own the media, if they do, and I don't even know if they do. It's about, if you don't like what the media is doing, you get together and you go buy that media. Or you start a new paper. But you do something. You don't sit and cry. And if 3.8% of this population own everything, and the other 95+% has allowed them to do it, then as far as I'm concerned, that's an indictment. That's an indictment on the rest of you who are too stupid or lazy or selfish or greedy to do it. You know, they bought it from somebody who sold it to them. And if you want a piece of it, why aren't you out there with your money buying stock? The listeners of this program will buy a major motion picture corporation in Hollywood, California, and I'm going to announce the name of it. Don't buy stock yet. We're all going to buy the same stock. We're also going to buy a major newspaper in this country so that we can present our views, the truth, and what we believe to the world. We're going to do this. Make up your mind. Because if we don't, I'm going to tell you this right now, and you better listen very carefully. If we don't, we deserve whatever comes out of Hollywood and whatever appears in the newspapers. Because, folks, let me tell you something. If just 10% of the people in this country who are dissatisfied got together and put up $100 apiece, we could buy anything in this country that we wanted to buy. And I'm just talking about 10% of the people who are dissatisfied. I'm not talking about all the stupid nuts out there running around thinking that everything's okay. You willing to put up $100 to own a piece of the action? Or do you want to keep whimpering and crying? about the people who did put up $100 to buy a piece of the action? Are you waiting around for somebody else to do it for you? Are you waiting for the government to straighten it out? We are more powerful than you will ever acknowledge or believe in your life. But if you will listen to me about this, we can do it. And we will do it. And tomorrow night, I will announce the name of the movie studio and the name of the newspaper that we, individually, as American citizens, are going to buy. And each and every one of you, I want you to start figuring out how much money, and it better be every single penny that you can muster, how much money you can set aside to purchase stock in these corporations, which I will announce tomorrow night. And if you don't do it, I don't ever want to hear another complaint about who owns the media, or who owns the press, who owns Hollywood, or why the truth is never printed, why we have to listen to communist, socialist, immoral views, and watch movies full of death and destruction, and limbs being ripped off of people. I don't ever want to hear it again. And if you people don't do this, and I ever hear it from you again, I will laugh in your face. I promise you that right now. We're going to do this. And if we can do this, we will have tremendous power. Tremendous power. Because nobody listens to or believes anything in this country unless it's in a major newspaper, on television, or comes out of a major motion picture studio. So if that's the case, we're going to buy it. Once we have a major motion picture studio, we can then branch out into television. Don't think for a minute we can't do it. The only thing that will stop us is you. You. The only thing that's ever stopped us, and it's the only thing that has us in this position today, is the abdication of responsibility of the American people. You cannot blame the thief. When you know that he is a thief, when you leave your home and broadcast to the community that you're going to be gone for 6 months and leave all your doors and windows open, you cannot blame the thief for stealing everything that you have. It's your fault. It's our fault collectively. And I am not skirting my share of the blame. For a good portion of my life, I was just as stupid and ignorant as everybody else who finds themselves in that position now, wondering, what happened? You all know what happened. Now it's time to do something about it. Make sure you're here tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, when I give you the names of the companies that we are going to purchase, and we are going to change the management of those companies, and we are going to put in good, moral people who will print the truth objectively so that we can make up our own minds about what we should think about it. We're going to do away with this silly, inane commentary that tells you what you're supposed to believe, and we're going to teach Americans how to think again. We are going to do it together. And for the first time, we're going to do it all together. And if you think because you're an Aryan you're not going to join this group because blacks are going to participate, then why don't you just get the hell out of this country and go somewhere where you can practice your racist aparthism and destroy some other country, but not this one. And you blacks who don't want to participate with everybody else because of something that happened to your great-great-great-great-grandfather that I and many other Americans had no part in, you can join them. In fact, I'd like to take all of you racist scum and put you on an island somewhere where you can kill each other. Only then would you learn to live together. Because if you couldn't, you'd all die at your own hand. Maybe that's what should be done with you. The same with you Oriental racists and all of you people who have to have some reason to hate somebody else. We're going to do this, all of us together. We're going to bring this nation around, or we're going to reach down and put the chains on our own ankles, and we're not going to cry about it. This we can do, and it doesn't hurt anybody. We can be powerful, and we will. Well, folks, if you haven't as yet called Swiss America Trading, it's time to do that. Monday night, you're going to hear a personal message from Craig Smith of Swiss America Trading, who believes very much as I do and backs this program. He believes in the message that this program offers to the world, mainly that we need to grow up, and we need to do it quickly. We are a nation of sheeple children, really. And we're looking toward socialism to save us. Socialism is a reversion to childhood, where you stop being responsible and where freedom cannot exist because you need a daddy to take care of you. Swiss America Trading has reported to me today that someone has stolen a list of names and addresses of listeners to this program, and that list is being used by North America Trading, the program sponsor that precedes this one, and that many listeners to this program who have never called that company before are now being called from the list that was stolen from Swiss America Trading. Now, we're not accusing North America Trading of stealing the list. We don't know who took it. But we know it is a list of listeners to this program who have never called that company before, and therefore they should not have their name or phone number. We know that the list came from Swiss America Trading, and Craig Smith is very upset about this. He's going to talk to you about it on Monday night. We did not know about this until listeners of this show began to call Swiss America Trading, wondering how this other company got their name and phone number. And so Swiss America Trading is instituting legal proceedings. Craig Smith is going to talk to all of you on Monday night. And if you are phoned by this other company that sponsors the Tom Valentine show, if you did not give them your name and phone number, and if there's no other way that they could have gotten it, then, folks, what we would like for you to do is whatever you feel best. I would ask them to remove my name from their list and my phone number, and I would be very irate about the manner in which they obtained it. But you have to decide for yourself what is right. Anyway, Craig Smith is going to offer all of you who have been coerced into purchasing anything from that company, you can call Swiss America Trading. They will go over whatever purchases you have made. If it's a fair purchase, they'll tell you. If it's not, they're going to tell you that also. And Craig will offer to make it right through Swiss America Trading in some manner. I don't know exactly how he's going to do that, but that was the gist of our phone call today. Now, this has absolutely nothing to do with Tom Valentine, and it probably, maybe, has nothing to do with North America Trading Company. You see, when I was the National Marketing Coordinator for United Education and Software, I noticed that salespeople often steal leads. And when they leave one company and go to another, sometimes they will literally rape the company they left, taking all of the lists of customers with them and try to convert them into their customers in the new company. So, don't go off the handle at Tom Valentine or North America Trading, because to tell you the truth, folks, I think this is a salesperson problem. And it is not Gene Miller, I guarantee you. He's still at Swiss America Trading and probably will be there for many years. But I wanted to let you know that tonight, and let you know that Monday night, Craig Smith will be here to discuss this with you, and we won't be able to take calls because he'll be on the other line, but you'll be able to call Swiss America Trading and talk directly to them. In the meantime, if any of you have received unsolicited calls from people at North America Trading Company, you're welcome to call Swiss America Trading and discuss that with them at any time. I got to tell you, folks, I don't like this any better than you do. And neither does Craig Smith or the people at Swiss America Trading. And I don't believe the management at North America Trading is going to like it very much either. So, but there's really not much you can do about these types of things. They happen sometimes. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left, and I've got time for about 2 calls if you'd like to call in and comment on what you've heard tonight. And if you've thought this over in the past few minutes, maybe we can get some constructive criticism here. Good evening, you're on the air.
Yeah, Bill?
Yes.
That book you were talking about last night, left a message for you. I can put that in the text files for you. I got a full-page scanner. I can send you the original book back, too, so you could resell it if you're interested.
Are you the one that left the message on the hotline?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get back to you on that.
Okay, take care. Good show tonight.
Thank you. 602-333-2174. If you want to talk about what you heard tonight, the line is open, folks. I imagine there's a lot of you sitting in your chair stunned by what you heard tonight. But I got to tell you, this whole country deserved what they heard. Good evening, you're on the air.
Hello, Bill.
Hello.
I've thought it over already while you were speaking of it, and I'll give it a shot. When you announce, I'll try to do that. I've never owned a stock in my life. I have had savings bonds. The reason that I didn't go to Washington was that I wasn't with you all.
What's that mean?
Well, DB, I heard her speech, and that you had taped and played over the air, and she gave me more hope. I'm on Social Security disability right now, and during her speech, when she was on the Capitol steps herself, and I wasn't there, but I was curious as to what she would say, and she said she wasn't going after the baby boomers. Her point was to educate people to get them off of the cycle of socialism.
That's right.
Or to get them off of that. But I will give it a shot about your idea about the media. I realize that the media is a drag. I'm going to go.
Wonderful. Because I'll tell you right now, from what I saw in Washington, from what I hear when I go around this country, that's really the only hope we have left.
Well,
otherwise, we're going to have the New World Order whether we want it or not, unless you want to pick up a gun and go out and start a war. And if you look at what you're facing, the technology that you're facing...
I'm against that, too.
Yeah. We could probably fight a guerrilla war that would last for 30 or 40 years.
Useless war, though.
That's right, absolutely useless.
Americans fighting Americans would be no good at all to me, and it would be a waste of time. When we could be making progress. We could be making better aircraft. We could be making better televisions and the high-definition TV is what I thought President Clinton would be pushing, and he would be saying, with this high-definition television, if we can, be superior in our manufacturers to the Japanese manufacturers, we can bring our economy around in no time, because people love television.
Oh, yeah, they sure do. That's one of the problems.
Well, I realize that, but I mean, the people buy them yearly. If we had the better ones and had the manufacturing our own selves, and there's something troubling. There is a lot troubling me about transferring wealth to Mexico, but I look at Appalachia, all of the coal that the people owned that was taken to New York stock companies, and I look at that sometimes and I say that those people were wealthy, and then they didn't know what they were, they got outsmarted is what happened. And I don't want to become outsmarted. Especially with my Bill of Rights.
Not just outsmarted. You have to remember those companies that were doing that were publicly owned companies, and if those people who were working in the mines had just bought stock with their money, whenever they had a few dollars to spare, they could have ended up owning it all.
They owed everything to the company, though. But that's another story, Bill.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. They sucked them into buying stuff from the company store, and the stuff always cost more than what they made.
But I did enjoy, you were irate a little bit today, and I enjoy all of that. I mean...
Oh, I was angry. Look what they've done in South Africa. Look at this. If they could do this in South Africa, all of these different tribes who have traditionally been warring against each other, and the blacks and the whites who have traditionally been oppressing each other and warring each other and killing, and if they could come together in this kind of a coalition, what the hell is wrong with America?
Well, we're scatterbrained. I mean, if we had priorities...
Sound like my grandmother. You're
no,
scatterbrained, boy.
If we did have priorities like that coalition did, does.
Yeah, they were...
Because I was expecting a bloodbath, honest to God.
Well, that's what they finally sat down and looked at and said, hey, we can't allow this to happen.
And it was useless to do that because actually apartheid was not even their own invention. It was an English invention that they inherited.
That's right. Listen, I gotta cut you off because we gotta go. We're running out of time.
I'm willing to go.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
That's it, folks. Good night. And remember, no matter how angry I get, I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.